Wisdom from Dads, episode 14. Welcome to the Wisdom from Dads show with Mark Ekdahl. This show is full of amazing stories, just like the ones you remember your parents telling you at home. Those stories you just can't forget, that taught you life lessons that were tested and true. We are creating a valuable treasury of stories and their wisdom here, of triumphs and miserable failures, heartbreaks and true love, and much more. Come along and have a listen. In today's episode, I am going to be discussing a conversation I'm about to have with my 14-year-old daughter, and I'm just kind of reviewing it here and recording it for the entire world to witness, just because it's a really dicey conversation, and perhaps other people could leverage the struggle I'm going through in order to figure out what to say and how to present in a way that really makes an impact, but also is very truthful and shows things that in a better way than I had the knowledge when I was 14 or when I was going into high school. So here's our shot at that. So this is addressed to somebody going into high school. So if you're someone going into high school, this is addressed to you. If you're a parent of someone going into high school, then this is a conversation you could be having with your kid, or you could have them listen to this, although it may give out too many secrets of what actually happens in high school. So here is our conversation. So you and your friends in high school will all have gone from being really older children to being adults in the next 4 years. And granted, you may be young adults, but you will be adults. So you'll be almost 18, which is considered adults by the government standards. And more importantly, in the next 4 years, your life will get flipped upside down, as with your parents' lives, because I happen to be a parent of a 14-year-old right now, and I am dreading my life getting flipped upside down, but I also know that is the way it is. So, in the next 4 years, some of your friends may get married soon afterwards in the next year or two after high school. That's not uncommon. Some may be pregnant, or a couple of your friends may not be married and have a kid. When I was in high school, I was shocked to find out that two of my friends ended up having a kid when the girl was 17, I believe. These things happen, and I'm just saying, in the next 4 years, I want you to be prepared for what the landscape is like, because it is dicey and rough, and it's a lot different than the 14 years behind you. Some of your friends, or some of the people you know, will try illegal chemicals and possibly find themselves unable to escape them, and that it could cost them their lives, because some of the illegal chemicals can be quite addictive and life destructive. Some will try or take up smoking thinking it will be a cool thing to do. Trust me, it is not. People do take it up. There's reasons people try it, and a lot of people who try it, it's hard to stop once you get into it. And so it's similar to a lot of things in high school, that there's a lot of things thrown at you that you'll be tempted to try, but just be aware that some of these things, if you do try them, they're hard to stop. And smoking is one of those. So, with all this occurring around you, what will you choose? I tell you this. Today is the day to choose. If you wait until the situation falls in your lap, the choice will no longer be yours. The situation will dominate you and will probably take the choice out of your hands. And so it's a significantly hard choice if you wait until a moment it's put upon you and then you decide, oh, with all these crazy emotions you have going on, this peer pressure going on, this unique circumstance that's happening, should you then change kind of what you were thinking of doing to be different? And really, it's the best to right now make your choices and to have people who will hold you to those choices, have friends that will support you. If not today, then choose when you will make these choices. Perhaps discuss with your friends, your family, or your parents, and choose what you believe in, what's important to you, where your lines are drawn. People around you will be losing their heads. They'll be getting into things that will shock you. Be your own person and keep your head on your own shoulders and make your own choices. Don't let the situations you fall into make choices for you. So here are some choices that you can make. What type of people will you allow to be close to you? This is very important. The type of people that you allow to be closest to you are the people you're most likely to be like. And so if you have a bunch of people who are around you who all of them are negative, you're unlikely to be the one positive person. Much more likely you're going to be negative with all the rest because it's just easier to go along with that. It's similar with other choices that people are making. If they're all making one choice, you're likely to make a similar choice to the people that you're hanging out with all the time. So be very careful who you allow to be your friends, who you spend time with. What do you believe in? Know what you believe in. Hold tightly to what you believe in and don't get blown out by circumstances. Who can you trust to give you good advice? This might be your mom or your dad or a friend, but it's good to know at the outset whose advice you trust. So when you really need advice, you're like, this is my go-to person to get good advice. What are your boundaries? And who can help you keep them? Trust me, you will need support with holding your boundaries and figuring out what they are and supporting them. And so it's good to put thought into this before you get into high school, where your boundaries are at and how you're going to hold them. For instance, will you wait for marriage? So, when I was in high school, I have a good story about this. When I was in high school, I realized a lot of the people around me were not waiting for marriage. They were having sex earlier than marriage. And I realized when I was probably about 17 or so that more of my friends were having sex before marriage than were not. And so I asked my friends, and these are Christians, non-Christians, all sorts of beliefs, hey, what made you choose what you're choosing? If you had to choose it again today, what would you choose? And I was surprised because I'm kind of like, I'm choosing to wait until I get married to have sex. And these people are all having sex right now. And I'm like, what is happening here? And so I asked them, and to a person, I was shocked whether they believed or didn't believe. They almost all said, you know, if I were to choose again right now, these are all people in high school who had already chosen to have sex or who were already having sex at least. They're like, I would choose to never have had sex in the first place. It just ruins your relationships. It ruins your situation. It puts a lot of stress on your life and the relationship and your friends. And they're like, if I had to choose again today, I would choose to not have sex. And I agree with that. I think that in high school especially, it's just way too young. There's too much stuff going on to play around with throwing sex in there too. It's just a really complicated thing. You or whoever you're with could get pregnant. There's diseases you could get. There's other things that can affect you for your entire life. It's not worth falling into the moment of the emotions. So I would encourage in that situation that you choose where you're at before you get put into a circumstances where pressure makes it harder for you to stick to your guns. If you communicate with people early on, here's where my boundaries are, do not push them, it will be a lot easier when the boundaries get leaned into to say, that's my boundary, don't lean into it. So choose for yourself and really value yourself. Value yourself highly and stick to your guns. You will be glad you did. So, talk about this with the people that you trust and be sure to support your friends in this conversation and in the way they need support also, because the next 4 years will blow your mind. So, there's 2 cents from a dad. I hope that helps. Talk to you later.